1 in 5 people will never fully heal from chronic digestive problems. And I've had the opportunity to talk with over 1,000 people with digestive issues. And I think I've figured out one of the key pieces that is missing for most people. And I'm going to share that with you in today's video. But not only am I going to share with you what this missing piece is, I'm going to help you figure out how to fix it. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video so that we can make sure you are 1 in 5 people that will heal your digestive problems. I think the missing piece that I'm going to share with you in this video might surprise you, because many people don't actually even consider this a part of the digestive system. Now, I can only imagine what you must be thinking. Is it my heart? Is it my lungs? Is it my adrenal glands? It must be because of chronic stress. But no, it's none of those. And it's actually much more interesting. And in my opinion, the reason that this is so interesting is there are actually several mechanisms of action as to why a dysfunction in this missing piece of the puzzle influences the health of the individual and especially influences the health of the digestive system. Now, I'm actually a bit nervous that when I tell you what it is, you're going to click off the video. You're going to think that's very boring. And the thing is, it is a little bit boring. I think it's boring for most people. I find it so fascinating. I find it so interesting. This is actually my favorite system in the whole body, but I'm nervous that you might find it boring. So I just need you to promise me you're going to hear me out. Please listen to what I want to tell you, because I really want you to heal. I don't want you to be that statistic of 4 out of 5 people that never heal their digestive problems. So are you ready for the grand reveal? And if you want to make a little guess and hold it in your head, we'll see if you can give you a little bit of an ego boost if you can get this right. But here it is. I can reveal to you the missing piece for 4 out of 5 people is the health of their bile. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. That is not very interesting, but I want to challenge you that, because I really think if I can tell you a little bit more about bile, if I can help you understand how it works and how when it isn't working properly, how it causes all of these different chronic health problems. Not only does it cause digestive issues, but it's a very common cause of liver problems, liver cirrhosis, hormonal imbalances, chronic toxicity in the body, and all of the different conditions that can cause, autoimmunity, chronic low energy, mood swings. So let me tell you how bile works in the body and how when it goes wrong, it causes all of these different problems. And don't forget, I'm going to tell you how to fix it at the end of the video. So don't worry, I'm not just going to give you a bunch of information and then leave you hanging at the end. I'm going to help you figure this out. So what is bile? Why do we care about it so much? Bile is a substance that we produce in our liver, and it's stored and concentrated in our gallbladder. And our gallbladder will contract and release this bile into our small intestine every time we eat a fatty meal. It can also be released to help balance the pH of the digestive system. Also, certain foods, especially bitter foods, can trigger a release of bile as well. And in this context, bile has 2 primary functions, and the functions are actually exactly the same functions as soap. So the same soap that you use to wash your hands, the same soap that you use to wash your dishes, we have the exact same functions inside our body, inside our digestive system, and this is done by the bile. And just think about how hard your life would be if you didn't have soap. You wouldn't be able to clean anything. You'd probably be getting sick all of the time. There would be mess absolutely everywhere. And now imagine what would happen if you didn't have soap inside of your body. You'd have the exact same problem. You're not going to be able to clean things. You're not going to be healthy. It's going to be a big mess, and that looks like chronic health problems. So we produce bile, first of all, to emulsify fat. And what this basically means is we excrete bile from the gallbladder whenever we consume fat in the food that we eat. So this could be when you eat an avocado. This could be olive oil. This could be McDonald's. It doesn't matter what the oil is. Whenever we eat oil, we need to emulsify it. And that means that we can make that fat dissolve in water. So maybe you did this experiment at school. I don't know if you did, but I did, where we would put some water in the bottom of a bottle and then we poured some oil on top. The oil floats on top and they don't mix together. And this is because oil is hydrophobic. It doesn't mix with water very well. And one of these functions of bile is to make these oils dissolve in water. And this is really important for a couple of reasons. First of all of our digestive enzymes will only be able to work on helping us digest our food if it's dissolved in water. So we need bile to help us with digesting the food. But also, when we absorb that food and it comes from our digestive system into our body, it comes into our liver, but it does so through the bloodstream. And we can't have fats just floating around inside the blood. Otherwise, they wouldn't mix correctly and then we'd have a lot of different problems. So we need to mix these fats with something to dissolve them in water so that we can then pull them in and dissolve them into our blood. so that we can bring them into our body. And that's exactly what bile does. So imagine if you have a problem with bile. Now you can't digest any of your fats, or you're going to struggle to digest your fats, because it's not always black and white. It's not always that if someone has a problem with bile, they can't digest any fat. Sometimes it's that they're a bit more sensitive to fats, or they can only eat certain types of fats, or when they eat fats, they have discomfort or bloating or gas or pain in the gallbladder or liver region. So not only do we have indigestion, which feels uncomfortable, but also means we aren't nourishing ourselves, we also lose the ability to gain all of the fat-soluble nutrients from the foods that we eat. And fat-soluble nutrients are so important. They're essential for good bone health. They're essential for our teeth. So you really need to know about this if you have a history of cavities or osteoporosis. They're also really essential for vitamin A and vitamin D. So these are really important parts of our immune system. If you have any kind of immune problems, it could be because your bile isn't working properly. So that's the first function. And whilst this is a problem for a lot of people, this isn't what actually causes most of the digestive issues. This isn't what causes the disease for most people. It's the second part. And this is the part that causes most people problems. So if you think about soap again, think about the normal soap you use to wash your dishes or to wash your hands. So first of all, we use it to remove grease or oil. That's the function that we've just talked about. But the other reason that we wash things is to clean them. So even if your hands aren't greasy, if you've touched something that's dirty, maybe you've touched an animal, or you've been doing some cleaning in the garden, or maybe you've traveled through an airport or something where there's a lot of germs, there's a lot of things that could make you sick. We wash our hands with soap because the soap kills bacteria, it kills viruses, and it makes our hands clean so that we don't get sick. But bile does exactly the same thing in your small intestine. So imagine what's going to happen inside your small intestine if you don't have this soap to clean things. If for some reason we lost this ability, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to see an explosion of viruses and bacteria and candida and parasites and all of these pathogenic organisms. And what most people do when they hear about all of these different problems is they try to kill them. They take oil of oregano, they take caprylic acid, they take even antibiotics or anti-parasitic medication. But this is where everybody goes wrong, because you've just missed the most important part, which is that we have soap inside our intestines. It's already there. We don't need to kill things with all of these substances. We need to make sure that our soap inside our intestines is working correctly so that we can clean our intestines. And this is what 4 out of 5 people get wrong. They don't focus on the bile because, as I said earlier, it's kind of boring. It's not super sexy. It's not super interesting. It is kind of boring. But the reason I find it so interesting is when you understand how important it is, you will see the connection between this and all of these different health problems. And I haven't even told you the best part yet. There's one more part to this story which is just going to blow your mind, but I'll come to that in a minute. Let me just finish up on this point. I heard a really funny saying that plumbers have saved more lives than doctors, and it's true, because having access to clean, fresh, running water and soap so that we can have hygiene and so that things can be clean does so much more to prevent disease than having a medical intervention. And the exact same thing is true here. If we can keep your intestines clean the natural way, if we can make sure that we have good bile flow so that we can kill the pathogenic bacteria and the candida and the viruses and the parasites in a natural way that we would normally kill these organisms, we don't need all of these medical interventions. So we need to look at your plumbing. We need to make sure that we have good hygiene in the intestines, and then the medical intervention becomes unnecessary. So now I'm going to tell you the best part. When I learned this is what made me fall in love with bile. It's what made me put bile at the top of my list, because it truly showed me just how important this single mechanism of the digestive system is for overall health and well-being. So the best part is that bile is the ultimate shortcut, the ultimate trick or hack to improve detoxification. Now, you've probably heard before, toxins are bad. We want to avoid heavy metals, things like mercury, things like lead. You probably know mold and mycotoxins are bad, and that we want to avoid antibiotics in the food and pesticides and plastics. You probably already know all of this, but maybe what you don't know is that the way that all of these substances are removed, all of the heavy metals, all of the mold toxins, all of the plastics and pesticides, all of these really nasty toxic compounds, the way that all of these substances are removed from your body is through your bile. Is that not just mind-blowing? Can you now understand why this is such an important part of healing, not just digestive problems, but any chronic health problem that could be caused by the accumulation of toxicity in the body? Most often I see this in people with autoimmune problems, people with chronic energy problems like chronic fatigue syndrome and adrenal fatigue, individuals that have chronic infections and weak immunity, and people that have a lot of mental, emotional, and cognitive problems. So things like anxiety, depression, ADHD, brain fog, all of these different things can be as a consequence of accumulated toxicity and poor bile flow. So the way that the body removes these toxins is it brings them to the liver. The liver is like this factory that is making new bile all of the time. And what it will do is it will package these toxins up inside of the bile, because remember, bile helps to emulsify things. So it can take these fat-soluble toxins and help us excrete them out of the body. It's very hard for your body to remove these fat-soluble toxins any other way because they're dissolved in fat. You can't just urinate them out. You can't just wee them out. It's even hard to sweat them out because these are all liquids that are water-soluble compounds. But the toxins that we really want to remove are the fat-soluble kind. So it's actually very intelligent of the body to package these substances up in the bile, because that's exactly what bile is designed to do. But if your bile isn't healthy, we lose all of these mechanisms. You can't digest your fats correctly. You can't clean the intestines, and it becomes full of SIBO and candida and parasites and dysbiosis. And we lose our ability to detoxify. So we become full of all of these different types of fat-soluble toxins like heavy metals and mold toxins and plastics and pesticides. So now I bet that you think about bile in a very different way, and you're probably thinking about it a lot more like I do. Probably bile isn't so boring for you anymore. In fact, you're probably going to go and do a little bit more research after this video and figure out just what you can do to improve the quality of your bile and to make sure that your bile isn't the thing that's holding you back. But before you go, let me give you some tips and tricks so that we can start to improve the health and the quality of your bile, so that we can support all of these functions, so that your body can digest fats, so that it can clean the small intestine, and so that it can start the detoxification process again. So the first and most important thing that we can do to improve the quality and the health of the bile is to try to keep the bile flowing as much as possible. Now, this is actually very easy to do. It simply means we need to eat fat. The more fat that we eat, the more the bile will flow. In my experience, the best way to do this is to try to eat 30 grams of fat 3 times per day. If you can do slightly more, that's totally fine. If you're very sensitive to fat, if you have a lot of problems with digesting fats, then this is your end goal. This is something you can work towards. What can happen if your bile quality is low and the bile health is low is the bile can become very thick and congested, and it is often also full of toxins. So when we begin to move it, we can actually feel slightly worse in the beginning. This is why it can be important to start slowly if you need to. But just remember, no matter how slowly you need to go, we just need to try and get that bile moving as much as possible. The thinner that it's going to get, the cleaner that it's going to get, and the more chance we have for it to go into the small intestine, which means it can do all of those jobs. It can help us digest the fats, it can kill the viruses, the bacteria, the candida, and all of those pathogens. So simply eating enough fat on a daily basis is the first step to improve the quality and the health of the bile. The second thing that we can do is provide some of the raw ingredients that the body needs to make new bile. And we have a couple of options here. The first is TUDCA. TUDCA, conjugate of a bile acid. So what this basically means is it's a bile acid, it's bile bound to taurine. And this is good for a couple of reasons. First of all, the bile acid itself can be reabsorbed and reused, so we can begin to thin the bile out. Also, the taurine that it's bound to is very important because it donates sulfur to your body. It's a sulfur-based amino acid, which is very important for the health of the liver and the bile. And taurine is also used in bile acid synthesis. So we're providing some of the building blocks and the ingredients, which can be really, really helpful. The second is that we could use foods that are high in choline. Now, the best option for this really is egg yolks. So if you can tolerate eggs, egg yolks are absolutely amazing for this. And if you can't tolerate egg yolks, or if you want to add a little bit of extra support on top, you could look at a choline supplement, or ideally what I would recommend would be to supplement with something called sunflower lecithin. So this is a phospholipid compound that's extracted from sunflower seeds. It's not high in omega-6, so you don't have to worry about that, but it contains a blend of different phospholipid compounds, one of them being phosphatidylcholine. This is the best type of choline for improving bile flow, but the reason I like this supplement so much is that it has a lot of other phospholipid compounds in it. So phospholipids in your body can improve cell flexibility and permeability, which means nutrients can get in your cells and toxins can get out of your cells, but it also has a bile thinning quality. So as we consume this, the bile, where it may have been congested and thick and sticky, will begin to become more runny. Almost like, imagine if you take honey and you put it in the fridge, it would be very thick and very sticky and very hard to move and very hard to mix. Versus if you took that and then you warmed it up, you put it in the sun, it would become very, very runny. And that's the same kind of thing that we're trying to do with bile. We want to make it very thin, very runny, so that it can do its job better, so that it can reach all of the different fats to help you digest them, so that it can cover the small intestine and kill all of these different bacteria and viruses, and so that we can mobilize it and move it more frequently, so we can help the body in escorting all of these fat-soluble toxic compounds out through the bile and into the stool. Another thing we can do that is very helpful in improving the health and the quality of the bile is to incorporate juicing, especially juicing green vegetables. Juicing will provide almost all of the raw ingredients, a lot of B complex vitamins, a lot of nutrients, but as green juices tend to be very bitter, they also provide a digestive stimulant effect. It's kind of achieving the same thing as digestive bitters, but providing a lot of other benefits as well. The antioxidants and the nutrients will improve the health of the liver, which as a consequence improves the health of the bile, but we're also providing lots of soluble fibers and polyphenols, which are going to improve the health of the microbiome, which is another thing that we can do to really help that bile flow. So the final thing that we can do to improve the health of the bile is working more directly on the microbiome. So this could look like a couple of things. First of all, we have the juicing, which can be very helpful. We can also look at probiotics and fermented foods. If you're not sure where to get started with that, take a look at my comprehensive probiotic guide. It walks you through a step-by-step process to master the implementation of probiotics, so you can improve not only the health of your gut, but the health of your bile as well. Just to summarize very quickly, if you can tolerate fermented foods, that's the best option. And if not, I would follow that guide and work through it step by step. So to wrap things up, if you've watched all the way to the end of the video, leave me a comment below and let me know, what do you think about bile now? Do you find it a little bit more interesting than perhaps you did at the beginning of the video? And if you watched it all the way through to this point, leave me an emoji of your favorite greasy food, because greasy foods are the key to improving bile flow. Now, it's better if we stick with healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, coconut oil, any of the animal fats are fine, egg yolks, bacon, tallow, these are all great. It's the vegetable oils we really want to be avoiding. Sunflower oil, canola oil, soybean oil, these ones are not good for your bile. So leave me an emoji below of your favorite healthy fat. I think if I was going to leave one, it would probably have to be a sunny side up egg with the egg yolk still runny. So leave me a comment and let me know. And if you have any questions about anything that I talked about in today's video, please leave me that as a comment below and I'll be sure to get back to you. And as always, if you need a little bit of extra help or some personalized support, please feel free to shoot me an email, support@williamdickinson.co.uk, and I'll be sure to give you a hand however I can. So that's it for today's video. Take care and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.